I think Northern Lion said this, and I've never agreed with anything more in my life. People need to stop rationalizing their feelings as much. If you dislike something or somebody, you should just say that. You know, like it's okay to say, I don't like X or I don't like Y. I don't like this person. I don't like this thing. I don't like that thing without needing to like argue the case. You can just say it. I don't like X food, period. Like you don't have to say, you don't have to elaborate on it in any way. I don't like this band. I don't like this. I don't like that. Or, contrarily, I do like this. That's the difference though. When people say they like something, they rarely feel the need to say why. You know, they'll just say, oh, I really like that. I really like this. It kind of stands on its own as a statement. Whereas if they say, like, I don't like this, there is a compulsion to follow it up with an explanation for why. And I think that, like, we could do that a little bit less. You know, why does it matter? If a guy doesn't like French toast, I don't care why they do. They can just like if they feel the need to offer that opinion, they can just say that. They don't. I don't need to know that it's because of a thing, because they think the thing feels like another thing or it's too meh. I don't care. But so why do they feel the need to say it? Why do I feel the need to say it? You know? Yeah, let people not enjoy things. That's okay. I actually got into a situation where I had to defend liking a movie of the weekend. My only argument was I just like it. I think that's good. If you want to have a conversation about why you like or dislike something, that's fine. Then talk about it. But you don't need to reflexively offer it. It comes across a little bit defensive to me. Like, if you dislike something, you're innately on the defensive. You then have to like rationalize it to an audience because otherwise your dislike comes across as irrational or arbitrary. You know, we have to bring yum yucking back to the normies. That's true. Listen, okay, we've had enough of normalizing. It's time to stigmatize. Hard to justify or denounce political I'm not talking about political opinions. I'm just talking about things. Political opinions are issues of debate and import for a reason. Like, oh, I like, I like racism. Well, wow, that's great. Want to share why? That's not the same as like disliking French toast. Also, the others shouldn't demand an explanation of why they don't like the thing. Well, I mean, if it's in good humor, I think that's okay, right? As long as it's being done with good intention, like if somebody's curious why you don't like a thing that other people like, that's fine. Don't be weird about it. If you want to talk about it, you can. Your opinion on the cinema wins versus cinema sins philosophy of consuming media. I'm not going to be the 5 millionth guy to say that cinema sins is a garbage channel because you all know that it is. And I would be like, there's nothing in it for me. Everyone's already said it. And they're right. Cinema sins is awful. Cinema wins is fine because it's okay to be optimistic like that. That is the difference between like, if you're making media critiquing something, like your critiques matter, right? And it's not like the CinemaSins guy is just saying, I dislike this movie. He's like, I disliked it for this reason, that reason, and the reasons are horseshit, I think it's okay to be a little bit more trivial with why you like something, because there is, I think, an innate moral difference between negatively critiquing and positively praising something on like flimsy justifications. It would be okay to say, like, I like this movie because of the, but if you were to say like, no, I dislike this movie because of the, like the triviality of the matters a lot more for the second one. Vosh, you said, I don't like this person as an example, and I think that's insane. Not liking a person for no rational reason is an awful thing to do. I mean, like a public figure. What the, wait, hold on. You can dislike a person just based on vibes. Don't project your insecurities onto me. If somebody dislikes your vibes, like you're not going to like argue them out of it or whatever like that. It's not a rational process. If you dislike somebody, you dislike somebody, I mean, obviously if you're all in like a shared friend group and somebody randomly is like, yeah, I dislike this other person in our friend group with no explanation given, like that kind of warrants one. But if you just want to randomly say like, oh, this public figure, or oh, this other person who's like, outside the current social context, I don't care for them, you don't need to like supply a rational reason for that. It is what it is. I think that's kind of shallow though. Why are you pretending that it's a choice? If you don't like a person, you don't like a person. Do you make the choice to like or dislike things? I don't, that's not typically how my thoughts work. Usually if I like or dislike something, it's kind of like an emotional response that I have to it. and the rationalization is usually like a post hoc effort to justify it. This is what I mean by like the need to justify. Sometimes it is just a vibes thing. I think it would be a lot better if people would own up to the fact that it's a vibes thing sometimes. I think that a lot of the reason people dislike me is a vibes thing. They see like a loud white guy, you know, with like a beard and the confident, ooh, he's a masculine, or he tells people what's right and what's wrong, and they get a bad vibe from it. And then they're like, well, I can't just say it's a bad vibe. I have to like construct an alternate universe where this guy's a chauvinist or whatever. I think that if people were honest about the vibe thing, it would actually be a lot better, you know? This is a pretty childish way of seeing things. Thank you, Casimiros, for your first message in chat. I'm glad you cared enough about the subject to leave YouTube chat to join us to share that excellent opinion. Would you like to like explain how? Because the idea that for the most part people form their feelings on others or on subjects based on like a set of emotional responses to it and then post hoc justify it as a way of rationalizing it, that's like a fact. That's not a childish way of looking at things. That's just how you are. That's how you are. If you dislike that about yourself and you're mad at me for bringing it to your attention, like that's not, or maybe you don't like the fact that I'm saying this because like you had a bad experience with a friend group or an ex and you don't like the idea that there's some kind of borderline innate irrational emotional underpinning to whatever set of excuses each of you gave the other for why things went down the way they did. You know, I don't know how this is my fault though. Yeah, when people rationalize, they double down on shitty takes. If people were honest about the vibe, then that would be a lot better. That'd be more honest. Yeah, Vermin, I think you should be introspective about why you do or don't dislike things. I'm just saying that I don't like the idea that people presume that it's like a rational function of their faculties, you know, like they think about it and they consider it and they're like, I am going to logically deduce that I dislike or that I like this thing based on X or Y. People don't really work that way. My point is, it isn't. It's an immediate mental thing we should analyze. Yes, that I agree with. You should be introspective about why you have those feelings, but that's not the same as rationalizing, right? Introspection and rationalization, in a lot of cases, are actually the opposite, because the reflexive desire to rationalize a feeling can often lead you to dishonestly assume that it's for better reasons than you might otherwise think, you know? Shouldn't our rationality be able to override our emotions? That's not what we're that's like, respectfully, that's like a very childish way of thinking about it. Your emotional feelings on something aren't subject to your rational analysis of it. Your rational, like these aren't like competing forces in your body or whatever. They both handle different things. What you like or dislike is an emotional thing, you know? If you dislike a person, do you think like, no, I should be able to rationally like them, and then you like ration yourself into liking them? Like that doesn't make any sense, you know? These are complementary experiences that handle different things. We have to be careful when the emotional stuff interferes with our like rational assessment of the world, and we have to be careful when our like efforts to rationalize get in the way of an honest emotional experience. Unquestionably accepting and acting out in immediate likes and dislikes is an ideal. I'm not saying unquestionably. I'm saying don't rationalize it. Like don't pretend that it's all being done for some logical reason that you construct to make yourself and your feelings feel like, bro, if you dislike somebody for some like arbitrary, unfair reason, that's life? Say you don't like somebody because you think their voice is annoying or their face reminds you of the face of somebody that you don't like. That's life. You don't have to fight through that. Like you aren't obligated to have that feeling and then go like, it's wrong though. No, it's not wrong. That's not wrong. That's life. You can just like or dislike things. That's life. Those are reasons though. Yeah, but those aren't the reasons. That's not rationalizing. Well, okay, okay, guys, you realize that rationalizing isn't the same as thinking about things, right? Rationalizing is when you try to justify something irrespective of whether what you're saying is true or reflective of the underlying reasons. So you might not like a guy's vibe because his face just feels kind of off or maybe reminds you in some vague subconscious way of something that you don't like. And you might then go, yeah, I didn't like him because he gave me kind of a toxic vibe. Like he seemed to me like, you know, maybe a bit sexist the way that he talked to me. No, he didn't. He was fine. That's you rationalizing. You had a totally emotion-based reaction to how he looked, and you didn't, because you didn't want to come across as shallow. You didn't want to say, yeah, I didn't like his vibe because of his face, because that makes you look awful. So then you're like, well, no, actually, it's because of some behavioral thing. I have a justified reason for not liking him. But that's a lie. That's dishonest. Now, I still encourage you to be introspective about why you dislike the guy, but do you understand the difference between rationalizing and thinking about it? Aren't those post hoc? Yes, rationalizations are post hoc. Chat isn't ready to hear this applies to people's opinions of them too. Yeah, nobody likes to think, nobody likes to be perceived, you know? Nobody likes to think like, yeah, man, no matter how hard you try, sometimes people can just dislike you for no reason and there's nothing you can do about it. That's how it is. No, this is not the bear in the woods thing. Trusting your gut is 100% valid. Well, no, not always, you know. Well, let's not bring back the lynch mob. We're not talking about trusting your gut. We're talking about rationalizing your emotional response to people or to things. The trusting your gut thing is a different thing. Yeah, you have to understand where your emotions come from. Loads of people hate Vosh because he's confident. Dude, that shit literally happens all the time. That happened with the man versus bear discourse, because me saying, hey, a lot of women are paranoid of men and have good reason to be, and a bunch of men responded to that by going like, wow, so Vosh thinks it's okay for like women to be racist against men, or like, wow, Vosh thinks it's okay to be like biased against men, or Vosh thinks it's okay, like thinks men are bad.
Thanks
what
for
about like
everything
black
you
people?
do.
What about like, what
As
if
a
I was
baby
black?
leftist,
I'm not. I'm
you
white and I
helped
grew up in
break
the
me out of
suburbs
my
and I've never
capitalism
experienced any kind
realist
of
shell,
racial
and I'm
like
grateful for
oppression.
that.
But like, you know, what if disliking someone is a choice, IMO? That's just not, that's just straight up false, and you're lying. That's not true at all. Treating somebody nicely or poorly is a choice. Like how you treat people, how you act is always a choice. Uh, how you feel about something is not. That's the whole thing to therapy, right? You can't control your feelings. You can control how you process those feelings and act on them. So you can have a strong negative feeling and you can either act on it, or you can think like, okay, like let's say that you're a victim of sexual violence and you see somebody at a party who looks like your rapist. And they're not, they're a totally different person, you know. But you see them and you feel immediately like negative about it, you know? Now that negative feeling you have is not your choice or control. That's happening either way, right? So you can then respond to that by like thinking, so you can do the wrong thing and rationalize, and you can think like, oh, that guy must be like the rapist or whatever. Or you can think like, okay, this is like an emotional thing, da da da, and you can choose to act in a certain way. But if you chose that, this example is insane. I mean, it might be to like a 14-year-old boy who's never in any like spoken to anyone. Maybe when you grow up and learn how to talk to women, they might share some experiences with you that might you like they can make you reflect on the perceived insanity of the situation. You can choose, by the way, to be like normal to that person who looks like the rapist, or you can choose to like not interact with them. Both of them are fine. Those are both valid. You don't have to overcome that negative feeling. That feeling's a feeling. The feeling is real. People always say, "Oh, your emotions aren't real." That's not true. They literally are. You're feeling them. Your feelings are material. What do you mean? This is like that's a material force right there, you know? You can act on that. You know, like, oh, well, feelings aren't real, your choices are. Well, yeah, your choices are real, but your feelings are too. And if your feelings tell you, like, even if it's irrational, like, yeah, that guy feels like bad vibes or whatever, like, that's fine. That's okay. Live your shit, you know? Don't like make yourself uncomfortable, forcing yourself to only have rational reasons to like, nobody lives like that. Nobody lives like that. Does that mean facts care about your feelings? I mean, yeah. We make factual moral prescriptions based off people's feelings all the time, right? A whole bunch of our like social etiquette, social contract, moral code is about being kind to people and being like mutually trusting so that we can sort of like rely on others to help us as well. And all of these are dependent on the completely intersubjective emotional biases that humans have towards certain experiences over others. So basically, you can validate the feeling without rationalizing it. Yeah, well, you can acknowledge it and you can try to understand it. It's not really about validating, I think. It's just about, like, don't pretend that it's something you have to fight against necessarily. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is something you have to fight against. This really depends on the circumstances, right? Like, if you've had an experience with sexual violence and there's a guy who looks like the guy that hurt you, you don't have to think like, okay, time to subject myself to a bunch of emotional turmoil by proving to myself that I'm capable of being normal to this one guy who just happens to look like the other guy. You don't have to do that. But if you've, say, for example, been like traumatically assaulted or mugged by a like black guy or whatever, and you now have some sort of lingering anxieties about black people, there might genuinely be some social and moral utility in you trying to overcome that bias. There's not much social utility in like, okay, I need to be better towards the people who randomly happen to look like a rapist versus like, okay, I have literally ascribed one negative experience to an entire racial group. Those are different. It's kind of a case by case thing. You have to choose whether or not you want to fight those feelings and whether or not it's worthwhile and valid. And that's, yeah, wizardry. Again, it depends on whether or not those feelings are even like worth meaningfully challenging. Yeah, this shit happens, man. Also, hello. Long time no talk. Yeah, no, this shit happens. It's a real issue. Whether or not you want to do anything about it, I mean, that's a personal battle. I don't think you can like construct a larger moral argument for or against any particular take on that. What if someone's a doctor and their patient has an annoying, stupid face? Should they turn off the ventilator? Yeah, I think as a doctor, you should be able to unplug people if they're being kind of annoying. Follow your vibe. Yeah, you don't rationalize your favorite color. Does anyone else did anyone else have like friends in high school who would be like that though, where they would be like, "Yeah, my favorite color is purple because it reminds me of the like royal like purple of the Roman Empire." And it's like, what do you mean you like purple because you think it's pretty? Don't like if you randomly found out that actually it wasn't purple dye that the royals used. It was like indigo, and indigo meant blue back then. Like nowadays we associate it with purple, but it's not like it meant like dark blue or whatever. Would you stop liking purple? And if so, was it even your favorite color? To be fair, there are some that would change for that, yes. I think that's weird. I like burgundy because I like burgundy.